This is what I'm going to be talking about today. Oh, view from this side. It's turning around. Well, you can't see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But this is a colour positive film that was taken by someone in my family when they were on holiday back in June 1964. And if I leave it much longer in a bag atop my wardrobe, it'll probably just turn into a pink rectangle. So, I'm embarking on a personal project to archive a whole bunch of these. And today I'm going to talk about how I'm going to get started, what the process looks like, and finally take a good look at some of these photos. So, commence Project Knoll. That's my granddad's name, by the way. So Grandad was the reason I got into photography. I had to constantly wait for him outside his dark room as a kid. But after he got transferred to the big old SD card in the sky, I took charge of bags and boxes full of these positive film slides. And I mean, a lot of them. There are so many. I don't know yet how many, but there's a lot to get through. Anyway, perhaps 90% of these are family and friends, but I bet you, knowing my granddad, that there's some absolute gems in there too. And that's not all. And check out some of this. I've got a photo album like this one. Check this out. It's from the 1930s, so the Great Depression. And there's loads of these tiny little black and white photos in there. Some of them have moved, some of them do have writing on, so maybe we'll find out what's in there. Also, this Kodak wallet from August 1954. And it's not just the photos inside or the newspaper clipping, it's the design that's so interesting. So yeah, it'd be good to get that digitized. I've got his driving license from 1972, multiple other documents and newspaper clippings, but probably the most interesting and oldest thing that I found in this pile of photos and slides is this cabinet portrait taken at W.S. Wiles Photo 101-102 Kings Road, Reading. And written on the back it's in faded ink and it's at the top, but it's Barbara's, which is my nan, great-grandparents. So my great-great-grandparents, I think that is 6 generations ago. I've got a family tree she put together somewhere. Maybe their names are in there, but I also looked up the store name online, and I think it's circa 1880s, but I can't be sure without doing more research. So I am the archive now. I have all of this stuff, and there's a treasure chest here of things waiting to be discovered. But in its current physical form, it probably won't last forever, so it falls to me to digitize it. Right, let's give these the sniff test. Well, that just smells old and stale, but not vinegary, and that's a win. From around the 50s to the 90s, cellulose acetate was the film base. It was the dominant sort of film base. And before that, it was cellulose nitrate, which was flammable enough that there were regulations about how much you could store in one place. But nowadays, film is polyester-based and is effectively inert and rated to last about 500 years. But this cellulose acetate breaks down over time through hydrolysis when exposed to heat and moisture into acetic acid. And acid's never good. And that's what the vinegar smell would be if I had it. So once it starts, it accelerates and transfers to what's stored next to it. So storing them loose in a bag is probably not the best idea and something I need to remedy fast. Another way to see if the film is going bad is the black border trick, and I've got one here somewhere. Here it is, it's sort of come open. So the glue has failed, and I'll take it out of its casing. But the border is quite black, and it's a stack of 3 color dyes, and as it fades, the edges sort of soften up and shift to a magenta color. So it's a decent, quick visual inspection too. So nobody sits down and decides to throw away their family photographs. They just put them in a box in the attic and chemistry does it for them. It is time to get the scanner out. Let me go fetch it. Here it is. The Epson Perfection V600 photo. And it comes with these guides. I've got one inside. We open it up. Oh, and this particular one allows either. I'm going to set it up on my desk just over here. I'll be with you in a second. So the scanner comes with these guides, and this one in particular, actually I'll show you on the desk. So this one in particular comes with the ability to have 2 sets of just sort of raw film in there, or 4 slides. I think that when I'm in the software, I'll run a preview and rotate the images, and then I'll go in and scan them. And I'm initially going to scan them to Jpeg, but I'm also going to try Tiff files to see if they are any better. And I'll also try with and without dust removal and see how that affects both image quality and scanning time. So I'm going to set a scan off and then count how many slides I've actually got to scan. Okay. While that is scanning away, I'm going to try and count how many slides I've got. I think I've already done the loose ones. So all of these that were sat in a bag together, which consist of, thank you scanner, Fuji color ones. Let me see, what's this one? Yeah, I've got some old Kodachromes and Fuji Chrome as well. But then I have found this absolute treasure trove. I think there are about 20 odd in each of these. How many have I got there? Oh my. I've probably got about 800 slides to go through. Let's hope this doesn't take too long. Still going. There are alternative routes to digitising. So there are other scanners, cheaper little scanners that can just take strips of negatives, or using my camera to photograph them. But I think that's going to be way too much. And a scanner like this is probably the most efficient method for me right now. And well, I already have the scanner. And as for what this workflow turns into, how I'll categorize, store, and back everything up, I'll cover that in my blog post. So head over to tonyjhughes.co.uk/blog and just wait for it to appear. Check it out. Talking of my website, here's a shameless segue to me promoting my new Lofoten location guide. It's an ebook and/or an interactive map covering 17 locations, coordinates, composition ideas, general notes on the location, amenities, all of that stuff that I found on my adventure there. And there's also a free version with 3 locations and a taster of what the maps look like, so you can try before you buy. Anyway, that's my shameless plug done. I think that's going to be finished in a minute. Let's go and check out the scans. So the first scans are done and the results are in. 3.5 minutes for 4 slides without dust removal and 5 minutes with dust removal. Over 800 slides, that's a difference between 12 and 17 hours, and that doesn't include thumbnails and loading, unloading the scanner and getting the dust off them in the first place. I'm looking at easy double that number. But I'm going to jump in and have a look at these right now. And I'm just going to have to do full screen because switching to this camera, this place is an absolute mess. My desk is all over the place. So let's just jump in and have a look. First and foremost, I don't think my granddad took these photos. This looks very much like my Uncle Malcolm. So they must be from my Aunt Jean and Uncle Malcolm's holiday to Spain. Anyway, first let's check out the dust removal. How well did that work? Getting AI tools to restore photos these days does make it a lot easier than the time-consuming manual work in Photoshop. But on this scanner, it's software-based removal rather than infrared scans. that detects surface dust and scratches. That's, I think, on other models. But it does look like it's done a half-decent job, so I'm going to leave that particular setting on. Despite the extra time it takes to process, I think, yeah. Now let's check the difference between having color restoration on and off. And as you can see, it does a really good job of correcting white balance and tint, so I'm going to keep that on. Of course, you can just stick all of these into Lightroom and correct the color yourself, but you don't need the extra hassle, do you? After spending hours scanning them anyway, you may as well let the scanner software have a go at it first, so that also stays on. Future Tony here, answering the question Jpeg versus Tiff, because I've realized I didn't answer it in the video. So the JPEGs are on average about 1.2 megabytes each. The TIFF files range between 77 and 82 megabytes each. So that question of what am I going to use is JPEGs. There's no point having such huge files, especially when I've got loads to archive. And with the really old slides anyway, I couldn't see any discernible difference between the JPEG and the TIFF file. So there you go. Right, back to old me. One thing I really love, and I think a lot of people love about these old images, is the colors. They are far more natural, more organic than the homogenized nonsense we get from camera phones today. And comparing this to a similar photo from my Fujifilm X100 VI, a camera that allows you to get film simulated JPEG straight out of camera. Of course, the Fujifilm has the advantage of 60 years of technological advancement, but you can make the colors look pretty similar. Perhaps then it's the softness, the rough around the edges of the old slides, and that's the real charm. Which brings me onto my next section. Right, scanner is off and I've moved places because this is maybe a little bit of an observation on what is happening in the world at the moment. The whole time I've been doing this, there's this thought that I can't shift. And I've looked up some numbers. Since the middle of 2022, we've generated somewhere north of 30 billion AI images, roughly 80 million a day. And here's the one thing that got me. Generative AI is its first 15 billion pictures in about 18 months. Photography took about 149 years to do that number. And that's a century and a half of every wedding, every war, every holiday, every passport photo. So matched in a year and a half by something that has never been outside. Don't get me wrong, I think AI is amazing and it has some amazing uses. So Google's DeepMind, the AlphaFold project, which was used to predict protein structures. That is amazing. Denoise, that's another really good one that I do use. But I am getting fed up of the AI slop, and I'm sure you are too. So look at what people are actually doing about it, because it is fascinating. Searches for digicam hit a 10-year high this year. Point and shoots, those little cameras that were landfill a decade ago, are making a big comeback. And there's about 42 million film photographers in the world, and roughly a third of them are under 30. Did you know that? Which means there's a lot of them that has never used film the first time round. But is this nostalgia, an aesthetic we're chasing, or signs of society pushing back? In 1839, photography turned up. There was a common thought at the time that painting was going to die. But in fact, painting didn't die. Its job changed overnight. It no longer had to record things because a box could do it faster and cheaper and better. So within a generation, you get the Impressionists. The whole blur, the extra light, the impressionism, things a photo couldn't do at the time. So painting got worse at accuracy, but vastly more interesting. Photography did that to painting. AI is now kind of doing that to photography in a way. So go back further and you sort of find the same argument. All that Renaissance perfection. The reaction to that was Caravaggio painting saints as blokes off the street with filthy feet and getting the paintings chucked out of churches for it. There seems to be a cycle of polished perfection versus rough and ready throughout history. And I think we might be at a turning point now, moving from our polished presentation of the world, which is, I think, what AI is trying to reproduce, back towards the sort of rough and ready. I mean, Fujifilm is releasing a waterproof and a black and white quick snap disposable next month. There's clearly a market for this stuff. Anyway, that is my little rant done with. So I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff that I've already scanned and I'm about to scan, and I'll give you my closing thoughts. This is a project not for anyone else really but me and my family, to document our history for posterity and not let it rot away in an attic. Perhaps if you take one thing away from today is to go and give your old negatives a quick sniff and make sure they don't smell like vinegar. I'll be doing the same thing next time I visit my mother. That old film isn't getting any younger. There's going to be a blog post about this, see the description for the link. Remember that I also shoehorned a shameless plug for my new ebook in the video too. Do not forget that. But perhaps watch my Lofoten videos as well. Maybe that could be next for you. Anyway, that's it for this one. Subscribe and whatever, and catch you in the next one.